Hare Krishna. So we're picking up where we left off yesterday. When Prabhupada was asked to say something about his spiritual master. Hey, Govardhan, help me for a second. Loosen this. Yeah, there you go. Srila Prabhupada said, "What can I say? He was a Vaikuntha man." And Prabhupada said that he was the greatest philosopher to walk on the planet Earth since Jiva Goswami. So we left off, actually I went through this stuff, my notes yesterday, and I picked up a few more items from his youth. When he was in school, he never did his homework. Instead, he would read the poems by Narottam Das Thakur, but he always got top marks. Don't imitate. There was a big event. All right. Go ahead. Thank you. There was a big event, and Srila Bhakti Thakur was supposed to speak, but he was sick. So he asked his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, to go. And he spoke, he chose as a topic, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati, he chose as a topic Brahmins and Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas were considered, like I said the other day, sentimentalists, low class, beggars, so many things. And in many cases it was true. They had the owls and bowels and so many different groups. Hookah smoking, you got the idea. So he began, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, by glorifying the Brahmins with so many different quotes about the exalted position of a Brahmin. So the Brahmins in the audience were very pleased. And then he went on to explain how a Brahmin may be situated in Suddha-sattva, pure goodness, but the Vaishnavas are completely transcendental. What is it, Bilvamangal Thakur says that Mukti standing at my doorstep with folded hands asking, "Can I be of any service?" And his lecture was so powerful that the audience rushed the stage to touch his feet. And it became such a spiritual riot that the local constables had to hurry him off the stage. And it's not like, But the only thing I can think of to compare it to is when there's some famous rock star in the old days, and they used to, the Beatles or whatever, and they would attack them, you know, to get to touch them or, you know, grab a piece of their clothing, and they almost got killed a couple times, crushed in the crowd or torn to pieces. So they all wanted to touch his feet, and you've got, I don't know how many, but, you know, definitely hundreds, maybe even thousands, trying to touch his lotus feet. So the local police rushed him off the stage and locked him inside a building, a house. But the crowd got so big and riotous to touch his feet that they were afraid they were going to break into the house. What to do? So he wouldn't let anyone touch his feet. So what he did was they got a bucket, like a pan of water, and he put his feet in the water, and then they took the water and threw that over the crowd, and the crowd was satisfied. So that's a flavor of his preaching. At the end of his 10-year vrata, we spoke about that at Yogpith, he saw the whole, I heard Prabhupada say this, he saw the whole Panchatattva coming on Harinam, along with all the previous acharyas and the 6 Goswamis. And they said, now you give up these austerities and go and preach. We're behind you. We will supply whatever you need. We have unlimited men, money, understanding, knowledge, whatever you need. Don't worry. We will supply whatever you need. You just go and preach. And we remember that Rupa Goswami, that's a whole other story, appeared before Srila Prabhupada at the Radha Damodar temple and said, you just write these books, go to the West, and we will take care of everything else. So, and I remember Shivaram Maharaj telling me, if you take a risk for Krishna, Radharani becomes your treasurer. So Krishna will help. If you have electricity, different things have different levels of conductivity. For example, metal doesn't pass through electricity, doesn't pass through wood. A little bit better is water. A little bit better is copper. I think the best is some types of fiber optics that they can flow. So what determines the quality of those different elements? Their degree of conductivity is determined by what? Who said that? Did you say that? Yeah, resistance, the degree of resistance. Less resistance, more electricity flows. So that the degree that we're surrendered, Krishna will empower us. And here we have him being greeted by, he's in that hut when it leaks, when it rains, he's sitting under an umbrella. And the entire Panchatattva, the previous acharyas, and the 6 Goswamis all said, okay, you're ready. Go out and preach. We'll supply you everything. He left the this is from Achyutananda, who Prabhupada told him this. He left the Chaitanya Math one evening after midnight. A brahmachari saw him and followed him, wondering, where is Guru Maharaj going so late at night? Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur saw the brahmachari following him and said, all right, come on. They went down the road, and by a big banyan tree, there came a effulgent kirtan party. They all embraced and danced, and then the Sankirtan party left. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that kirtan party was coming from Swarga Loka. In the Yogpit, he was, what is our, Utsaha Nischayad Daryat, that in enthusiasm is a cornerstone, key element in devotional service. And Yukta Vairagya is to use everything intelligently in Krishna's service. We're not, as I said, he was one of the first to have a car in India. So, Prabhupada said there was a picture, and I think it's Ram Krishna, and people are offering him a 10 rupee note or something, and he's going like this. Prabhupada said they can take a picture of me going like this, raking it in to use it in Krishna's service. Prabhupada had no personal attachment. And his, whether Prabhupada was sitting behind his little desk in Radha Damodar or sitting behind a desk at the, Mumbai Juhu Temple or in the skyscraper in New York, he had his little desk. He had his few, 3 sets change of clothes. He was the same. So devotees don't become intoxicated, but they use Krishna's things in Krishna's service. So when they were building the Yogpit, that beautiful temple. When they did, anyway, that's off the track, so I want to stay focused. I'll just say this much. When they were building the foundation for the Chaitanya Math Yogpit, Lord Chaitanya's temple, they actually found, they discovered in the foundation the Shalagram Shila of Jagannath Mishra, confirming that that was the spot. So when they were building that temple, the workers used to stop, take a break, and smoke bidis. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur said, don't stop, I'll roll bidis for you, just keep working. So, of course he didn't actually do it, but that was his point, how we were ready to do everything, anything, not, to keep the Sankirtan movement going on and not waste time. He had something like 30,000 initiated disciples. And as I said, he had 3 or 4 bullock carts would arrive every day with mail inquiring about the Gaudiya Math. Their preaching was so powerful. His parikram, his Mayapur parikram, was so big, he had brahmacharis on horses riding back and forth to keep it organized. The camp was organized in concentric circles radiating out from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's tent that was right in the center. Actually, Prabhupada said, because the Gaudiya Math did not spread Krishna consciousness, they fizzled out after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur left. They all fought with each other. Prabhupada said, therefore, these Ramakrishna and these other rascals came forward. They were abated when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching so powerfully. Oh, I wanted to read a description of his theistic exhibition. This is another immense success, probably his most popular preaching innovation was the staging of diorama displays on cultural themes. So I'm just going to take a section of that. The exposition was divided into 2 sections, spiritual and secular, with items collected from every part of India, and the whole extravaganza covering over 1 square mile. That's how big this whole festival is, over 1 square mile. The secular division demonstrated miscellaneous departments of human endeavor: medical, educational, agricultural, arts, crafts, cattle and livestock, children's welfare, athletics, and amusements. To bring them in, it was like the World's Fair. Several provincial governments sent material to be displayed. Other attractions were performance of athletic feats, such as gymnastics, wrestling, boxing, sword and stick play, and jiu-jitsu. There were musical competitions, dramas, films, a circus, which means Ferris wheel, a ride for kids, and in the words of the harmonists, other varieties of innocent amusements. The prizes, medals, and certificates were awarded to deserving exhibitors. So that's gives you an example. This festival, they had it set up so they call it in America whistle stopping. You know, you ride on a train and you give a speech from the back of the train. He had it so well organized that if they had a train route, they had 2 trains crisscrossing India. And if they pulled into a station for a couple hours, they had it planned out, they would immediately set up tents, displays, a book display, a whole kitchen. They would give lectures, displays, serve out, cook a feast right there on the train platform, distribute it, and then they would pack up and get back on the train. So they would, everywhere there was a stay for a couple hours, they were crisscrossing these 2 trains all across India. He had a steamship that was going, around the subcontinent of India, and they'd pull into a port, put a festival on, pack everything up, put another festival, move to another port. Actually, Prabhupada said, I forget when he mentioned this, but I'm thinking 1973, the devotees said, Prabhupada, should we get a steamship and do this? Prabhupada said it will take at least 30 qualified men, and I do not think we have them. So Prabhupada was regularly humbling us, and it was true. Rabindra Sarup said one time that not only was Prabhupada in those early days, I mean, now we have so many wonderful saintly Vaishnavas, but Prabhupada said, Rabindra Sarup said, not only was Srila Prabhupada the only pure devotee in ISKCON, he was practically the only adult. I mean, we didn't know anything about anything. It was just amazing. It's like that, is it Cinderella? They turn a pumpkin into a coach, and 2 mice into the servants. And, how Prabhupada just took inexperienced, immature young boys and girls and just crafted them into a movement. When you think about it, Prabhupada was only preaching for 12 years. It's pretty amazing. It's not pretty amazing, it's most amazing. So, now, what else did I want to read? Well, I'll read that later on. So he's famous. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvana Mayasristam Guna Karma Vibhagasa. Now, what word is significantly missing from Guna Karma Vibhagasa, other than Dravida? Janma. It doesn't say birth. Birth is helpful. Prabhupada's classic example if you're born in a family of musicians, there's a good likelihood, Hare Krishna Prabhu, there's a good likelihood that you can become a musician. Or if you're born in a family of doctors, it's quite likely, you have a step up on becoming a doctor. But just because you're born in a family of musicians or born in a family of doctors, that doesn't automatically make you a doctor or a musician. You have to work at it. So it's not that you're born a Brahmin, but one becomes a Brahmin by samskaras, and by quality, and by work. So that's what Shastra says. That's what Narada Muni says. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. So he was preaching this. And the Brahmins who were getting their livelihood, they were charging admission to get into the temples. And of course, so many pujas and samskaras, and you got to pay us for this and pay us. That was their business. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur said, they're using the Shalagram Shila as a stone for cracking nuts. What does he mean by that? They're using the puja as a means for filling their belly, raising some money, There's a whole book, maybe we'll do that next Sunday, that are his pithy sayings, like Chanakya Pandit. It's called the Booklet of Instructions, but they're all analogies like this. So he was preaching that, Brahman is not by birth. The Brahmins, and that you can't charge money to see the deity. This is not, it's all bogus. That when he did his Mayapur Parikram, we were reading about this, with brahmacharis riding on horses to keep the whole, thing organized. When he got into Navadvip, from the roofs of the temples, they were throwing stones and bricks at him. And they stirred the local people into some of the local people, Gundas and things, into such a fury that they attacked the Sankirtan party with sticks, to beat them. And one of the brahmacharis, one of the householders exchanged his cloth with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They had to get him out of his saffron sannyas dress and put him in a house, and that way they snuck him out. That's the way they got him out of the riot, saved his life. Of course, Krishna saved his life, but it gives you an idea of the opposition he was facing. And Prabhupada tells a story that they actually went to one of the local constable, chief of police, and said, we're going to kill Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And you just take this bribe. Prabhupada mentions the amount, but you have to figure the exchange rate. I think it was 20,000 rupees, and a rupee was, 5 whatever to $1. It's a lot of money. So they said, they offered the bribe. If you don't do anything, you don't tell, you just stay on the sidelines, don't get involved, then we're going to kill him. And the police chief said, of course we do this kind of thing, but not for such a saintly person. And he didn't take their bribe, and he went and warned Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So it gives you an idea of the atmosphere. One time he was on a walk in the evening. The road that goes along that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur got the governor of Bengal to build so people could come out to Mayapur, that road is named Bhaktisiddhanta Marg. And the Gangas, it's a whole story, but sometimes in Bangladesh they open the dams when there's too much water behind and it floods Mayapur. And I've seen it come up, it came right up to that road, Bhaktisiddhanta Marg, because it's raised. And Achyutananda wrote to Prabhupada, giving him a report, that how many people were feeding and what the book and what's been flooded and that. And Achyutananda said, we were saved like a bulwark against the dam, like a dike holding back the Ganga, if you know how the river's made. He said how the river flows up and how the road's raised. And the water stopped at the edge of the road. Achyutananda wrote and said, we were saved by Bhaktisiddhanta Marg. Prabhupada wrote back, we are always saved by Bhaktisiddhanta Marg. Following the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta. There was a renowned Hanuman Bhakta. The disciples wanted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to meet him. He went and asked the famous Hanuman Bhakta, do you approach Hanuman directly or via anyone else? What do you think that Baba answered? He said, directly. And what did Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur say? He said, you are bogus. You can only approach via the parampara. He installed, and they're beautiful deities. It's black Krishna, white Radharani, and he named them Shri Gandharvika Giridhari. So Gandharvika means Radharani, the best of singers. And Giridhari, of course, means Giridhari. So Gandharvika Giridhari. But here's how they got those were the first marble deities, big-sized deities, installed in the Gaudiya Math. You can see them there at Chaitanya Math. So so he went, they were Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's favorite. There's arguments about who were Prabhupada's favorite deities, and he never said, but he was, well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to upset anyone. So he went to Jayapur with his, an entourage of brahmacharis and householders to get to order the deities, to pick out the deities. And the first Murtiwala shop that they walked into, the owner said, you've come for Radha Krishna deities. Here they are. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, how do you know that we're here for Radha Krishna deities? And the shopwala said, I had a dream last night that these deities spoke to me. They said, tomorrow, a Mahapurush, a rare and powerful personality, most powerful. He said, I had a dream last night that these deities spoke to me. They said, tomorrow a Mahapurush will come to your shop and ask for Radha Krishna deities. We want to take seva for him, so give us to him. Then the Mukutwala said, I can tell that you are that saintly personality, so please take them for free, and he donated the deities. So that's the origin of Gandharvika Giridhari. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur told Srila Bhakti, actually said about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Remember, Lord Jagannath said, I didn't bring you to Navadvip just to do this legal work, government work. I brought you here to preach. And Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur said to Lord Jagannath, put up some argument that it's so profound, Kali Yuga is so pervasive and powerful, I can't do it alone. I can only do it if you send somebody to help me. And that's, of course, when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared. He was the only born Brahmin, as I said the other day. The umbilical cord was wrapped, but that left a mark on his body for the rest of his life. So he was the only legitimately born Brahmin. But what I wanted to say is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur said about Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. He gave him these, and we're going to wrap up here. But he gave him 4 benedictions. And the 4 benedictions are, these are the blessings of Bhaktivinoda Thakur on his son, that you will establish and spread Daivi Varnashram. That means classless society, as there was no discrimination about who could take up devotional service. That you will break open the doors of this Brahmins only, which he did. It's like, anyway, that's another story. You'll crush the bogus understanding of bhakti. And we gave some pastimes yesterday about that. You will start the Mayapur Parikram, which he did in grand style, as I was describing. And you will spread the glories of Mayapur Dham. Just as I said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur made that little, with the birth site under the neem tree, and then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta established the whole Chaitanya Math, and now we have Prabhupada doing the TOVP. Makes you wonder, who is Srila Prabhupada? So, I wanted to read a sampling. Where did I put that? This is just a sampling of the writing of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. This is a speech he gave at one of his Vyas Pujas. It's just 2 paragraphs, but it gives you a flavor. We have taken upon ourselves the responsibility of welcoming this great charge, meaning of becoming a spiritual master. All the audience have accepted ordinary seats. I alone have been provided with a lofty seat. All are being told, in effect, to have a look at the big zoo animal from the zoo garden. What arrogance! So foolish, so wicked. Have you ever seen such a big brute? Speaking about himself, he says, garlands of flowers have been put around his neck. What laudations, what bombastic, long-drawn, and hyperbolic adjectives. And how complacently, too, he is listening to the praise of his own achievements. How intently, and with his own ears. He also evidently feels delighted in mind. Is he not acting in plain violation of the teachings of Mahaprabhu? Trinadapi, Sunichena, lower than a straw in the street, not expecting any respect from others, but offering all respects. So this is completely counter. How can he be acting in plain violations of the teachings of Mahaprabhu? Can such a big brute, so selfish and insolent, ever be reclaimed for this brutishness? I mean, just imagine a huge crowd, and this is how he starts out. It's just so far out. He understands completely the envious mentality, and how do you square it all, and what does it mean to be a real... I mean, it's just profound. Hold on. And then Prabhupada said, I forgot about this, that, and unfortunately, when you would go to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's house there in Mayapur, his house is there. And there used to be a veranda on the 2nd floor. There was a veranda. And he used to, and now they walled it off and made it somebody's house or somebody's room or something. I actually In the old days, you used to be able to poke around. This is 1973. And I was just walking around, and it was practically abandoned. You know, a rising tide lifts all boats. Now they've got, you know, many pilgrims coming. They've got income. They fixed the place up. And there's some reflected glory from the power of Prabhupada's preaching. And it was revelatory and cautionary and frightening. I poked open one door and I looked inside, and there was one of Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur's presses. And it had laundry and copings hanging on it. And all the, you know, that old handset type, it was spread all over the floor and broken. It had just been abandoned and broken, and they were using it to hang laundry on. So as it happened to them, it can happen to us. You keep adding water, and eventually you don't have milk. So it was a cautionary tale. Now, so on that balcony, now they've walled it in and made it somebody's accommodation. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur would stand on one side of the balcony and argue, make a, you know, as an impersonalist. Then he'd walk to the other side and argue and defeat his arguments. Then he would walk back again on the other side as the impersonalist and counter. And he would go back because there was no one qualified to debate him. He would debate himself, going back and forth across this veranda. And he was, because one of his nicknames was Nrsimha Guru. He used to walk across the street and accost impersonalist Mayavadis. He would shake them by their kurta. Why are you cheating the public? So his nickname was Nrsimha Guru. So when he was in this ferocious mood of going back and forth, nobody went out on the balcony. Prabhupada would go out on the balcony and sit. And his godbrothers would counsel him, fools rush in where angels fear to go. I heard Prabhupada tell this. And he said, but I would sit and listen. And if you read, you read some of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's papers and letters and listen to some of his lectures, you can hear all the points that Prabhupada... So you can imagine Prabhupada as a young householder sitting there fearlessly, drinking in the nectar of his Guru Maharaj. He was too fiery for anyone else to approach, but Prabhupada was relishing it. So, I'm sorry, I'll finish this. Can such a brute, so selfish and insolent, ever be reclaimed from brutishness? I happen to be one of the greatest of fools. No one offers me good advice on account of my arrogance. Inasmuch as nobody condescends to instruct me, I place my case before Mahaprabhu himself. The thought occurred to me that I would make over the charge of myself to him and see what he would advise me to do. Then Sri Chaitanya Dev said to me, whoever you meet, instruct him regarding Krishna. By my command, become Guru Deliverer of this land. In this thou wilt not be obstructed by the current of the world. Thou wilt have my company once again at this place. So that's Mahaprabhu. In every town and village, my name will be heard. Become a guru, instruct them in the science of Krishna. So he said, what am I supposed to do? This is the order of Mahaprabhu. So you may accuse, I was in Chicago. I don't want to go too far afield, but the Prabhupada was sitting on a cushion, and newspaper reporter and philosopher, a photographer from the Chicago Tribune. They came, and they said, "Oh, sit on the big seat. Sit on the big seat." Prabhupada said, "No." They said, "No, sit on the big." Prabhupada said, "No, you're envious." All they wanted to do was take a snap of Prabhupada sitting on the Vyasa-san and then criticize him for it. That's all they wanted. So people can't understand that that's the duty of the spiritual master, to train the disciple. Prabhupada gave us his own pranam mantra, created it himself. There was nobody else who knew Sanskrit. So namaste Narayana, or what is it? You know the second part. I'm a little tired this morning. My neighbors were. But what is it? Nama Om Vishnu. Nirvisesha, what is it? No, but what is the first line? Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharni, Nirvisesha, Sunyavari Paskachal Desatarni. Prabhupada created that to give us an insight into what is his mission. So he had to create his own pranam mantra. But that's his job. Otherwise, how do you train your disciples? So that's what Srila Bhakti, but in such a poetic, blissful way. So, yeah, we will end here. As I said about conductivity and different elements, Prabhupada said that my disease, meaning his disease is he cannot think small. It said that, and one of the symptoms of a sannyasi is that they're tolerant. You're supposed to be tolerant. You're supposed to have control. Goswami, you're supposed to be able to control your senses. What is the one sound that a sannyasi cannot tolerate? Prabhupada joked and said, babies crying. Can you listen to Prabhupada's tape? He tolerated so much, But what is the one sound that a sannyasi cannot tolerate? And this comes from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and gives a flavor of his mood. Fire engines, dump trucks. What is the one sound? Nobody wants to hazard a guess. Even Dravida. The one sound was the sound of and I heard Prabhupada say it, the sound of the jivas being crushed by material nature. Picture a giant steamroller, running over somebody and the person screaming. So the march of Kali, crushing the living entities and then crying out. Vaisheshika Prabhu told me, and he hasn't sent me the source yet, but it's Vaish, so you know it's pristine and pure. He said that in the heart of the Kali Yugites, the citizens of Kali Yuga, sometimes you go on door-to-door Sankirtan, and they open the door. There's the TV or the computer or the rock and roll. We used to go door to door on college campuses, and they came to the door. They were naked. It was a nudist, apartment. Kids, I was shocked, They were playing poker. They were all naked, So they opened the door, and out wafts the smell of chicken soup. And cigar smoke, and it smells nasty, like a dumpster, And they're all disheveled and unshaved, and they haven't bathed in a week. Oh, jeez. But Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, in the core of their heart, they're looking out the door, looking out the window, looking down the street, and thinking, when will Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan party come and save me? So Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur said the one thing the Vaishnavas cannot stand is the sound of the living entities being crushed by material nature. The essence of Mahaprabhu's mission is compassion. So we can hear these pastimes, okay, nice stories, I know some history. But the point is, it's meant to change our heart. It's meant to say, this is human life. Instead of just living, what did you do? I know people that I went to high school with, married their high school girlfriend, took over their parents' hardware shop, never left town. Maybe they went to Mexico for a weekend one week, and they dropped dead. That's the goal of life, that you manage to fend off birth, death, and the birth, disease, and old age as long as possible, and then you finally drop dead. Kijai. But this is what we are meant to hear the cry of the conditioned souls. And Prabhupada said, I was sitting in the room, and Prabhupada said, first thing he said was that the Pandavas, somebody asked, oh, Prabhupada, oops, because this is the mood that Prabhupada got from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We should also pick up that mood, because it is the mood of our sampradaya. So someone said, oh, Prabhupada, are we going to take government posts? You know, in 10 years, will Krishna consciousness take the government? Prabhupada said, Krishna can give you the whole world. He gave the whole world to the Pandavas in 18 days. Then Prabhupada said, why 18 days? 18 hours. And then Prabhupada said, don't laugh. Prabhupada said, but what will you do with it? You'll simply sleep. I tell you, we felt the weight of that. You'll simply sleep. So then Prabhupada said, actually, Prabhupada said, I've given you the structure. Just go and decorate it. And it's a fact. He gave us Harinam, he gave us book distribution, he gave us deity worship, he gave us Prashadam distribution. He gave us everything. And he got it all from his spiritual master with the focus on book distribution. So just go out and do it. And the result will be that Mahaprabhu will take us back to Godhead. That's the purpose in this one life. Prabhupada said, don't waste. Don't play with fire. Death, disease, and fire should be disease, death, and fire, Chanakya Pandit says, should be tended to immediately. Why? If I don't tend to death, disease, and fire, what will they do? Who said get worse? You said it? Huh? Yeah, they're just increase. You leave a fly, you got a small fire in the corner of the temple. It's just a small fire. Is it going to stay small? So this material world is a dangerous place. Look at Bharat Maharaj. We should do our business and get out, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. You don't hang around in an outhouse. That was his classic example. You do your business and get out. So do our business and get out. And what is our business? To spread the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because we cannot tolerate the sound of the jivas being crushed by Kali. So that's a little glorification to the best of my meager ability of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.